This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. Folks, it's that time of year where sweat is generating in places we don't really want to talk about on the show. Just know you're not alone. Here's what we got for y'all. The mayoral race in New York City is heating up. We dig into some of the issues candidates are campaigning on ahead of the primary elections for America's biggest city. Then a look at how far Navajo Nation has come in the pandemic and how the focus on the greater good is helping them turn a corner in the fight against COVID-19. But first, here's what you need to know right now. The Supreme Court sided with former college athletes Monday in a case involving compensation for students who also dribble, pass, run, catch, tackle, etc. The justices ruled unanimously that the NCAA's rules on limiting education-related benefits, like computers, post-grad scholarships, musical instruments, tutoring, etc., for D1 basketball and football athletes were too restrictive. Basically, the NCAA said students can't be paid and limited the amount of scholarship money offered in the name of preserving the amateurism of college athletics. SCOTUS said those limits were unlawful. In his opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh accused the NCAA of price-fixing labor and added that the NCAA and its members are suppressing the pay of student athletes who collectively generate billions of dollars in revenue for colleges every year. Those enormous sums of money flow to seemingly everyone except for student athletes. Yeah, while you were getting coffee this morning, Justice Kavanaugh was attempting to dunk on NCAA President Mark Emmert. The decision is pretty narrow though, and doesn't open the door for college athletes to start making bank off their names or images or likeness, something the NCAA is trying to amend. And it doesn't make any ruling on whether students should be paid salaries, but it does allow schools to really compete for athletes by offering additional benefits that are directly tied to their education. As travel picks up, some airlines are having to scale back flights because of a labor shortage hitting the industry. If you booked an American Airlines flight for a summer getaway, now might be the time to make sure they didn't switch things up on you. The airline says it plans to cancel 50 to 80 flights a day through mid-July, and people are not happy. To further complicate things, in a recent interview, the CEO of United said the US is likely heading toward a pilot shortage.
The military produces far fewer pilots today than they did, in the Vietnam and Cold War era. And it's hard to become a pilot, a commercial airline pilot, on your own if you're not going through the military.
It's been a turbulent year for the industry. In 2020, US airlines lost out on more than $35 billion. When lockdowns were in full force, air travel was pretty much dead. That led to loads of layoffs, parked planes, and slimmed down fleets. Since the rollout of vaccines, bookings ticked back up faster than expected, and now the industry is struggling to keep up with the demand. A new infrastructure plan, this one coming closer to $1 trillion. Biden's original proposal was closer to $4 trillion. The new proposal would add $750 billion in new spending over 8 years for things like roads, bridges, and other projects. At least 21 senators, more than half of which are Republicans, have said they would support the latest slimmed-down plan.
If you want to work with Republicans to spend $1 trillion on infrastructure, it's available to you. If you don't want to go that route and you pick a $6 trillion reconciliation package, I think you'll get a lot of pushback from every Republican.
The thing is, the plan doesn't include any money to address things like climate change or childcare, something the Biden administration and many progressives have referred to as human infrastructure.
I sometimes think we get boggled down in numbers, and that's important, but we got to look at what the needs are of the American people, what's going on right now.
The outcome is still to be determined. After all, these are just talks. One thing that still needs to be ironed out is where all this money would come from. The two parties have pretty different ideas about that too. Both Democrats and Republicans will hold their primary elections for New York City mayor Tuesday. And because the city leans left, much of the focus is on the 13 Democratic candidates who stand the best chance of winning the general election later on. Dealing with crime is one big issue for voters. That's one of several issues that hit on some serious concerns voiced in many cities throughout the country. Newsy's Alex Miller breaks it down for us.
New York voters set to pick their Democratic candidate for mayor Tuesday, effectively deciding who will control the nation's largest city for the next 4 years. And this could be a referendum on issues impacting most of the country, like the economic bounce back from COVID, spikes in violent crime, and police reform.
We know that with the increasing crime that we're seeing, many New Yorkers, many homeowners, many people who have to ride the subway every day aren't necessarily defining themselves as progressives. And we've definitely seen historically this is the time that even Democrats want more policing, want more structure.
Crime rose 22% in May, including a nearly 47% increase in robbery and a 21% increase in felony assault.
Former 2020 hopeful Andrew Yang scored the endorsement of the NYPD's Captains Union ahead of former NYPD captain and current Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams.
People who worked with him for years, people who know him best, they just endorsed me to be the next mayor of New York City. They think I'm a better choice than Eric to keep us and our families safe.
They didn't endorse me because I didn't ask for their endorsement, never went in front of them.
Adams has defended stop and frisk and other controversial policing tactics. But despite criticism, he's the one leading the polls. An Ipsos poll released Monday has Yang in second, but 8 points behind Adams. There will be more ballots to count here. 88,000 voters who are either registered independent or Republican have now re-registered as Democrats. In Manhattan, Alex Miller, Newsy.
When we're back, we'll tell you more about how one community turned the tide in its fight against COVID-19. The Navajo Nation struggled at first with COVID during the pandemic and had one of the highest COVID-19 infection rates per capita. But they turned things around. Newsy's Meg Hilling tells us more about how that came to pass and what's next for this community.
The numbers don't lie.
We're about over 70% of our Navajo people fully vaccinated.
The Navajo Nation is in a far better state than it was when Newsy spoke with the tribe last summer.
So when we say we got hit hard, it's not an understatement at all. It has just been constant.
12 months on, the tribe has gone from having one of the highest COVID-19 infection rates per capita to now having one of the highest vaccination rates in the country. On some days, 0 new cases or deaths are being reported by the tribe. So how did it get here?
It's not about individualism. It's about the greater good. It's about protecting your family, your community, and here on the Navajo Nation, your homeland.
Doing an outstanding job again.
President Jonathan Nez of the Navajo Nation says the tribe's community-centered mindset has been just as essential in reaching this point as its strict public health measures and lockdowns.
We had some very long lockdowns, 57-hour weekend lockdowns. It is because of the Navajo people taking on and accepting these pretty tough protocols that we were able to get to where we're at today.
Health officials for the tribe report that more than 95% of the vaccine doses it has received since December have been administered.
Most of the people that show up now say, my sister bugged me, my grandma bugged me, I'm tired of being the last person in my family that hasn't got a shot yet. So it's getting to be less and less of a special thing and more just part of the way we do care every day.
I truly believe that those that want it have received the vaccine thus far.
But some measures are not as optional.
Despite new CDC guidance for the relaxing of some mask mandates, Navajo Nation officials say that won't be happening anytime soon. Masks will continue to be required on the Navajo Nation, even if you are fully vaccinated, as tribal leaders say they don't want a repeat of last year.
You just don't know who's vaccinated, unless you want to ask for a card, vaccination card, but we're not going to do that. So it's best that we keep the mask mandate on, especially when we reopen our Navajo Nation to our visitors.
As the tribe pushes for life without COVID, officials say they're working to determine how to address long-standing infrastructure issues that left them so vulnerable to begin with. Community activists and first responders say a lot of these issues are often traced back to a lack of running water, access to food, and electricity.
So those type of things were always there before. They're still here today, and they'll be there tomorrow. And these things are just part of the system that have been lacking for our people.
For 10 years, Lauren Anthony's nonprofit, Chiz for Che, has been delivering firewood to Navajo elders in remote rural areas. That work has now come to include food and water delivery.
We're still trying to catch up our breath. We're still working with so many people, a lot of elderlies.
Work that has many first responders going the extra mile every single week.
We try to do roughly about 1,448 food boxes to the communities. Not only that, we step up, we do hand sanitizers, home cleaning supplies.
88 delegates on the House Senate.
At the top of the agenda for the Navajo government, shoring up resources for the Indian health service system.
Our advocacy now is to fully fund IHS so that we are equipped and prepared for any type of future bugs that come into the nation.
Meg Hilling, Newsy, the Navajo Nation.
To ensure communities disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 are getting vaccines, advocates and health professionals have set up vaccine centers where some communities feel most comfortable. I don't know about y'all, but I tell my barbers everything. Starting in my hometown in North Carolina to Atlanta to Chicago and now DC, my barbers have been like counselors. And the barbershop itself has been a safe space for tomfoolery and some pretty real stuff, like discussions around COVID. Newsy's Jamal Andrus tells us how health officials hope to boost vaccinations among Black Americans by partnering with barbershops and hair salons.
Inside this Chicago barbershop, Chanel Coleman and the staff connect with customers over everything. Rent increases, the Bears' new quarterback, and new hairstyles. But today's visits are a bit different. Coleman has partnered with the city of Chicago to help vaccinate her clients and neighbors in Inglewood, a predominantly Black neighborhood with the lowest vaccination rate in town. The latest incentive to boost vaccinations? Get a cut for a jab at your local barbershop.
That's the only way sometimes you can get people attention. They need to know, why must I do this?
Weeks away from President Biden's goal of getting 70% of U.S. adults to get at least one dose of a COVID vaccine by Independence Day, Black Americans' inoculation rate remains far behind other racial and ethnic groups.
The shots just happen so fast. I think that's what's kind of scaring people. And then you have people that's having different reactions.
At this Vaccine Relax event, people 12 and older received free haircuts and complimentary Six Flags tickets after getting Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson vaccines.
I don't want to see my daughter die. Nobody wants to see nobody die, and all the people that died during this COVID-19.
Jennifer Smith, a regular at the barbershop, came to vaccinate her 12-year-old daughter. She was horrified by the story of a 15-year-old girl in the Chicago area who died 2 days after testing positive for COVID.
It touched my heart, so it made me get vaccinated and decide to get her vaccinated.
Vaccination among Black Americans has stagnated despite ramped up efforts by the Biden administration to reach vulnerable communities.
A lot of people have thought about what's going to happen maybe 5-6 years later with this shot.
Health experts cite many factors, including lack of access, inability to take off work to recover from the vaccine's potential side effects, and a distrust of the U.S. government for its many historical failures of the Black community, specifically in public health.
Work still needs to be done to improve racial and ethnic equity, not just with the vaccine uptake, but with regards to healthcare access in general.
Nambi Duga of the Kaiser Family Foundation says barbers and other small business owners can play a huge role in their neighborhoods because they are often more trusted than traditional authority figures.
Particularly for Black Americans, getting that information from trusted sources, which includes their barbers, hairdressers, has been incredibly successful in putting out information about the vaccine and increasing vaccination uptake so far.
Complimentary vaccinations till 2 p.m.
The turnout at the Chicago's Vaccine Relax event was modest, but Coleman hopes it will have ripple effects in her community.
If we all continue as a team to keep showing them how positive this can be to get a shot, then I think it'll pick up in time. I think it'll pick up.
Jamal Andrus, Newsy, Chicago.
If you haven't done so already, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter using the hashtag #NewsyInTheLoop. Come for the news, but stay for the musings on national landmarks, like Waffle House. Food banks across the country are serving 55% more people now than pre-pandemic times, which has kept them busy to say the least. But it also made them see a need for other resources beyond just a free meal. National reporter Chloe Nordquist explains how these hunger relief organizations have come to take on additional services.
At Metro Caring, volunteers pack up these red bags filled with fresh food for those who need it.
We work to meet people's immediate need for nutritious food.
They serve nearly 7,000 families a month, up from 2,000 before the pandemic, both through drive-up and walk-up areas around the building.
We didn't know how long the pandemic was going to last. However, we did know that there was going to be an economic crisis following the pandemic as well.
While the need for food was great, Sheena Kadi says they saw an even greater need.
Food is a human right, and if we truly saw ourselves as an anti-hunger organization, that we also needed to be looking at what some of those root causes of hunger were.
Not just the causes behind food insecurity, but also the questions people had as life was changing around them.
We saw ourselves playing the role of a trusted messenger.
Questions from vaccines to housing.
Lots of questions around, can my landlord evict me? Can they not?
Metro Caring isn't alone. A recent study from the Duke Sanford World Food Policy Center shows that 30% of hunger relief organizations were open with additional services. The survey also showed that organizations plan to spend more time on advocacy work and helping clients get food assistance compared to pre-pandemic.
Nationally, a lot of organizations, even larger food banks, did start these types of grant programs where they wanted to support more community-driven solutions. They wanted to look at how do we get the right resources into the right places.
Ellie Agar is with Hunger Free Colorado. They operate a hotline to connect people with food resources in their area. She says she's seen more awareness about the issues behind food insecurity.
A lot of people are actually more aware of the underlying kind of root causes of hunger due to the pandemic. Especially with really high unemployment, people are realizing that sometimes hunger is something that you experience, but it's outside of your control. I think people are much more aware of these really systemic and maybe societal causes that people might be experiencing.
The social justice movements we saw across the world last year. Food banks and other organizations were in tune with that, too.
When we saw ourselves also in the middle of the Black Lives Matters movement during the pandemic, again, we were seen as a trusted messenger.
The study showed more than 50% of food banks shifted to address racial inequities.
We were also more intentional in looking at what are the ways that racism, that white supremacy shows up in organizations like ours.
Moving forward, food banks are playing a bigger role, focusing more on helping their community members tackle the root causes of hunger.
There are going to be families who spend the next several years simply trying to get back on their feet.
And making sure others understand that those who are hungry are people too.
Every single person behind those statistics is a real person who stresses out about how they're going to make rent, about how they're going to put food on the table for their families.
I'm Chloe Nordquist reporting.
Technology has drastically changed over the years, but national reporter Jesse Cohen tells us about one mechanic who's using his skills to fix a machine he thought had died out decades ago.
From the outside, you'd never know what lies beneath this alley shop.
I think we're about ready for the case, Jay-Bird.
But when you step inside Raymond's office machine and supplies, the more than 50 years of sales and service becomes evident.
This is a Hermes. It's a Model 300 or 3000 typewriter. These are made in Switzerland, and It's one of the top-of-the-line portable manual typewriters.
To call Darwin Raymond's skills unique would be an understatement. Oh, and the same goes for his assistant.
He's not very much help in that.
Meet JJ the cockatoo.
Like I said, if he takes something apart, you can almost never get it back together.
Most of the time, he's looking over Raymond's shoulder.
He's very protective.
As he plucks and pulls, moves and maneuvers.
Oh, looks good.
To fix every kind of typewriter. The skill Raymond never thought would be needed in 2021.
Oh, I thought it was dead 30 years ago, you know, and there wasn't much going on. People just throwing typewriters away, going on with the new computers and printers and everything.
But now things have changed.
The typewriter stuff has come back.
Not even the newest technology is distracting the younger generations from this 1800s invention.
They're tired of all the computer electronic stuff. I think they're kind of going back to something that they can hit a key and see it print, and it's not going anywhere else.
In the last 2 years, Raymond has watched them return to popularity.
And I get equipment and calls from all over the United States. And they call me for all kinds of stuff. So a lot of times they say, I want a certain typewriter, a certain type style, color. And because of what I have, I can probably 60–70% of the time, I can fulfill what they want.
If you want a typewriter to come back to life, Raymond is one of the few people who can make that happen.
And then we go back through and check and do all the adjustments to try to bring it back to factory spec. The biggest problem with these is finding parts. If I don't have it, there's very few people I can get it from.
Thousands of parts, dozens of machines.
I have probably over 100 different machines down in my basement.
All fixed for use.
It's just a resurgence that's, I can't explain it. I don't know why it is, but I'm very thankful for it.
There is one thing he's worried about.
The problem is that there's not a lot of younger people that want to work on them or learn how to work on them now.
So before he can put his tools away, he needs to pass the baton to a new mechanical magician.
I'm just hopeful that somebody will come along that will want to learn how to do that and maybe take over my position someday.
In Glenwood Springs, Colorado, I'm Jessie Cohen reporting.
That's it for us, gang. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more in the loop. Same time, same place. Top stories from Newsy are headed your way right now.